All right.
No.
No, me either. No. Oh, lads. What's happening?
Shit, wasn't it?
And well unexpectedly. Like, I'm well aware of what I said in my preview, but I think that was well researched and well founded. And
Yeah. I think a lot of us called 4-0 FC. Well,
yeah,
at it we did.
I was telling people in the crowd today, they was like, scored record, and I was like, 5-0, lad. Watch, 5-0. Start great, 5-0.
What do you think happened then?
We got beat, brother.
Yeah, no, but more than that.
Just getting the thing up.
Not for that.
The comments.
No.
But I can't be asked. I think my sound's on. All right. I mean, I don't even know where to begin to dissect that. I thought the 11 was wrong, but the 11 was still plenty good enough to beat Crystal Palace. So, what's the manager said? I've not heard those, so this is first time I'm hearing it.
Solskjaer has said the result is tough to take. Yeah, definitely. The first half was poor. In the first half an hour, you're feeling you're controlling it, and maybe it seems too easy. We didn't really have that zip and urgency about us, and they scored with the first chance. Just a long kick. It should never happen. That's poor defending. But in the second half, I thought we were excellent. We were pressing, pushing, creating chances, just not scoring.
No, we wasn't.
What do you make of that?
We didn't create chances. We might have had 22 shots, but like, how many of them would you go? I mean, expected goals here is where you can see the quality of chances, right?
Yeah.
A lot of stat stuff's woo. Expected goals is not one of those. It tells you the actual quality of a chance, and I would love to see what the actual quality, the real quality of our chances was, because I think it's pretty shit.
So let's contrast and compare the first half and the second half. Let's talk about the first half first, then, Steve.
Cast my mind back.
What did you see? Well, what were you unhappy with in the first half?
I thought Pogba was far too deep. You don't need 2 6s. And sometimes you can play 6s with the right mentality and it doesn't matter. You can be attacking with them. But we played them with the mentality of they're going to sit as 6s as a pair. And it was almost like Pogba was almost shackled back. You only needed McTominay to cover and the 2 centre-halves to cover, because the threat that they've got, the main outlet's Zaha, right? And until Luke Shaw went off, that was nullified quite well. Yeah. I don't know how at one point he put Ashley Young on his arse and beat him 4 times in one move. How the fuck did he do that? Anyway, the depth of Pogba was an issue, but I think the depth of Pogba was played into by the positioning of Crystal Palace, because like we expected from them, they was going to sit in 2 banks, 2 ranks, and it was going to be very tough to break down. Which is why, in my starting 11 and my prediction, I went with, let's play someone with a bit of guile and someone who's going to work in between the lines. Because when you play Dan James, Marcus Rashford, Tony Marshall, the 3 of them have got very similar characteristics, that you're going to want to put the ball in front of them and you're going to want to try and put it in behind the defence for them to run onto. That is the major threat that all of them offer.
Yeah.
When you can't do that, when the defence is sat back and denying the space, both behind them, what they did really effectively, and you almost have to give them the credit for this, is they deny the space behind them by sitting right on their own box.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere to get a head of steam up to get any sort of pacing behind them. So that nullifies our threat. The midfield collapsing on top of the defence denies that space in the half space in between them. Pogba's too much of a unit to get in there and actually make that happen, which is why that's where your Juan Matters and your Angel Gomes is going to come alive. That's why Manchester City play Bernardo Silva, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, because those are players with that level of touch and ability that can do it there. We played a counter-attacking team that had, I think it ended up at 71%. At some point in the first half, it was 76% possession. We just played the wrong mentality, but still not an excuse, because that team should still be able to figure out how to beat Crystal fucking Palace.
So we talk about Paul Pogba, and he was from what I saw in the game, he was heavily relied upon in that midfield, and there seems to be no support. And to me, that game seems to be crying out for another midfielder to work alongside Pogba and help him, really. I mean, Scott McTominay, and what do you think of Scott McTominay's performance? I didn't think it was his best performance, to be fair.
No, it didn't. It was very sideways. But you know what I found quite ironic was just before we took him off, he was the one playing risky balls in the final third with a bit of risk on him, especially out to Wan-Bissaka and to Greenwood in that final third. Some really risky balls that we was just getting on the end of, but because there was risk and we was just getting on the end of them, there was actually creating openings, and then we pulled him off, and you're like,
I think the other
now we've put Pogba as the lone six and nullified him.
I think the other midfielder as well that we played as well was Jesse Lingard, and I'm not going to lie to you, Jesse Lingard really annoyed me today.
Well, it's not his game.
Really annoyed me today because I know people go on about his record in 2019, and you mentioned to me, Steve, that although he hasn't scored, I think it's about 14 games you said, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. But you kind of want more from him. I mean, Ole has said that, well, he hasn't said, but you kind of see that Lingard kind of fits what Ole wants to do. But I just don't think he offers enough. What do you think? What do you think of Lingard? I mean, I just don't know where he stands. I'd rather see Angel personally, and you probably would as well.
Yeah. The question mark I had over Angel, and I still sort of have over Angel, is he has a tendency at times to do what Pogba does, which is dwell on the ball and take 5 touches when one would have done. Now against Rotherham, and it is only Rotherham, we didn't see that from Angel, and this was the first time Angel's really been given this main, playmaker, creator role with a lot to be relied upon on his shoulders against Rotherham in the leasing.com checker trade trophy, right? But there was numerous times that I was very impressed with what he was doing. Ball would come to him, he's on or just before the halfway line, and he's not even had a look because his awareness is fucking sensational. The intelligence and the vision that this dude has is outrageous. Yeah. And the ability of him to put a ball somewhere that he wants to put it is also quite unparalleled. The ball was coming to him just on the edge of the D outside the halfway line, and with one touch he was putting it into the channel. Inch perfect pass with a perfect amount of weight on it. And I was like, okay, he can actually do that. Because sometimes when it's relied upon him too much, he almost gets the Roy of the Rovers thing and he goes, I need to probably beat 6 people there and bang it in the top corner, which is unrealistic, isn't it? Yeah. It's not something you're going to do. And I like seeing him simplify his game and do the easy stuff. Same with Paul Pogba. When he simplifies his game and he gives it and he goes and he plays it forward, and he sometimes when he does that spectacular stuff, he absolutely bodies somebody. But I'd rather him go simple first because the ability that this kid's got, same with Angel,
unreal.
It's outrageously good. Yeah. And I think when he overcomplicates it, he struggles. So that I had a question mark over. The other thing was, how can he deal with this physically? Because even though that we're a team set up to predominantly counter-attack, can he press? I had that answered for me when I went and watched training. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The other thing was, can he deal with the physicality? You have to kind of turn the negativity of him being so small into a positive of, well, he'll win loads of free kicks from the box.
What do you reckon he can then? Deal with the physicality?
Yeah.
Really?
I do, yeah. I think you can't just... I started him, right? And I said it's unrealistic anyway. I thought there was more chance of him starting Greenwood than there was of starting Gomes. But the reasons I would have started him, I think, were valid.
Then why do you
if you're not going to play him against Crystal Palace, you tell me somewhere at home, somewhere on the calendar where it is all right to play him.
Well, why do you think then that we saw, I think, Lingard came off for Greenwood. Why do you think then Ole's prioritising Greenwood over Angel? Is it a system? Is it...
It might be because preference? In Jesse Lingard, there is a number 10. Right or wrong, whether people think he's good enough, and I know most don't, and I'm generally supportive of Lingard because I don't think he's the issue at the club. I think he's a tool, and you use that tool at the right time for the right job. In the bigger games, certainly City and Liverpool, Jesse Lingard's one of the first names on the team sheet there for me because of what he's going to do. Yeah. I didn't start him. That should tell you. Yeah. For everyone to be like, you fucking always defend him. I didn't start him. I didn't want to see him start this game. Yeah, when I give my 11, I didn't want to see him start in this game. When we've got a game where I expect us to have 65 plus possession, I don't want to see Jesse Lingard because that's not his game. Now, I think he is hamstrung a little bit by, okay, he's not scored or assisted in 14 games, but you tell me we scored that goal against Wolves on Monday night without him playing, because I'll tell you we don't. He was involved in it like 3 times. There is a time and a place for Jesse Lingard. For me, Juan Mata and Angel Gomes should have, or Angel Gomes, or even Pereira could have come in today because they've got more quality on the ball. When you're a team that's going to set up to be a counter and you've going to have 30% possession, you've got to be excellent off the ball.
So then, judging by Lingard's performance then today, and then going in to the Southampton game, what are you wanting to see? Do you want to see Lingard replaced maybe for Angel, or
I think asking for Angel.
Mata
We all
maybe?
know it's not going to happen. But what worries me more than anything else, because look, there's problems at the club. Lingard's not one of them, and that might be one of the reasons why we've not seen too much of Angel, is because we do have options at number 10. In terms of the pecking order, it's probably Mata and Lingard. Probably not much in between them as far as Ole's concerned, I think. Then it's probably Sanchez. And then it's probably Angel.
But do you think they could be more impactful then in that midfield? Because today we had 22 shots on goal, but only 3 on target.
Yep. Well, yeah, you got to take better shots. We got to create better chances. I would love nothing better than United to have 45 fucking shots a game and those scrappy little tap-ins that City get, because it's systematic.
Yeah.
What's our system? We've created a bit of an identity in pre-season and parts of Ole's reign so far. But there has to be a plan B, and that's why, I'm worried that we didn't replace Lukaku. People was taking the piss when I was saying, like, get a fucking Danny Welbeck in, get an Andy Carroll in, just get something in different. Because
so then does Llorente then appeal to you now? Because
he appealed to me anyway.
I think there was talk of, I think there was Italian reports, wasn't there, of United offering him a 2-year deal. But the fact that he's been rejected, kind of released, really, by Tottenham Hotspur, and obviously United want to strive ahead of
Look,
Spurs.
Sometimes it's not about
What do you think of that?
Picking up the very best player. It's about plugging the holes that you've got to make yourselves better as a football team overall. Now,
does Llorente make us better then?
He's not going to be in the starting 11, but there's time and a place for Llorente.
Yeah.
Like, there would have been a time and a place that Danny Welbeck comes in.
Yeah.
If it had been Danny Welbeck that you brought him in. There was a time and a place that Fellaini came in. Solskjaer moved in a different direction, wanted us to play football better. Sound. But there will be a time when plan B is needed. Everyone comes up against it. Even as good as City have been, they've needed a plan B at times.
Gabriel Jesus.
He's very much of a muchness, though. He's not different to what they have.
Yeah.
And I think, on one hand, I can appreciate going with your plan A and having the balls with your plan A. But I also think that you've got to have a plan B. And I worry for our plan B because at the moment, our plan B seems to be Mason Greenwood.
Mason Greenwood, yeah.
And if Tony Marshall's injured, and does he mention anything about that injury?
Let's have a look.
If Tony Marshall's injured, and to be fair, he fucking looked it. If he's injured, what are we going to do? Are we okay? Now Mason starts. Sound all right? Who's the game changer on the bench?
Or do you put Marcus up front?
It's irrelevant.
So say Tony got injured, right? And there is the options of our striker options. We had say we didn't bring in Llorente,
Okay.
right? And then we had Marcus and Greenwood.
All right.
Who you putting up front then?
You probably go with Marcus, just because.
What, and then Greenwood out wide?
Yeah, just as Mason's still learning his trade. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because the issue I'm sort of hinting at here is, one, who's now the right winger, and two, who comes off the bench on the 70th minute if it's still 0-0 and you're chasing a goal. Where's the game changers? If Lukaku hadn't left, he'd have been on the bench. Sanchez is clearly going out the door as well. Our bench is very, very thin.
Yeah.
We took a brilliant couple of steps forward in what we did in defence. Now Luke Shaw's injured. We're looking like back to the same old again.
Well, Ollie touched upon the injuries to both Tony Marshall and Luke Shaw, and he said, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully they won't be too bad, and maybe we can see them in training during the week. Then, with Luke Shaw, we talk about Tony Marshall as well. What about Luke Shaw? When Luke Shaw came off, we saw Ashley Young coming on and being his replacement. You've been you've spoken about your opinions of Young. Does that concern you as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Massively. Like I said earlier, he got done 4 times in one move from Zaha. The same shit that I was saying about Ashley Young last season's still valid now, if not more valid, because he's even older than he was last season. He's not good enough. He's not good enough as a backup. Brandon Williams, I'll tell you right now, is a better footballer than Ashley Young. What the fuck does Ashley Young offer? He offers nothing whatsoever. You said the same thing about Lingard. No, Jesse Lingard offers a tangible amount of things. Just because it's not a goal or an assist, he's still doing a hell of a lot. Like I said, go watch that fucking goal and tell me that if Jesse Lingard's not involved in it against Wolves, that it still happens. Jesse's not the issue. He might be an issue. If you think he's an issue, fine. I disagree that he's the main issue for us to get our bees in a bonnet about. My main issue for United at the moment is putting the right tactics in the right place. I thought Ole got it wrong against Wolves with the penalty fuck up, which didn't get improved today. I got it wrong by, and I'm probably not going to because it's just like I don't know where you go with it. I honestly thought Tony Marshall was taking it the way he ran after the ball.
Really?
And I don't know why he's not had a go at him.
So what did you make of Marcus then taking it?
I thought he was going to score it until he started his run up, and then I went, he's missed this. That stutter run.
So you knew he was going to miss it?
Yeah, just a case of the way he ran up and all the fucking furore about the penalty and the circumstances of the day. You just go, this isn't going in, is it?
I mean, it's against a side like Crystal Palace, and they haven't scored, have they? I think in their first 2 games, or did they score in their second game?
No, they've had the least amount of shots of any Premier League team.
Least amount of shots, and I mean, against a side like Palace to lose at home, it's just embarrassing, really. I mean, where do we go from here, Steve? Where do we go from here? Because does this result kind of concern you? Because
massively so.
The way I see it is when this team is good when it's good. So say we had a run of win, like we saw with Ollie last season. When we had a run of wins, this team is brilliant, and like it will get you goals, and the form will be great. But then when it's on the back end of it, you can tell they look kind of weak. I mean, how do you think then they're going to react to this?
I don't know, and I think the crowd doesn't know either because I found it very intriguing. I was sort of like watching our crowd as United went 1-0 down, and we was confident. Everyone had the tails in the air. It was loud. It was boisterous. And then as soon as Crystal Palace scored, the crowd didn't have the faith in the players.
You can't tell, couldn't you? It just went silent.
It's very telling, and that must be a weird atmosphere for the players to be playing in. But it was very, very, very telling. I thought that we're very fragile at the moment. This is a transitional season, and Ollie's going to need a lot of time, and I think he needs a lot more money and a lot more backing from the board. Whatever the fuck you think about all of what's going on in those circumstances. But there's a lot of work needs doing. A lot of work needs doing in many different areas. Depth is one of them, and when we brought in Wan-Bissaka, I was really happy because I looked into the academy. Obviously, a big fan of Ethan Laird, Brandon Williams. Thought they were probably a good year off being anywhere near the level Wan-Bissaka is. Still the case. They could have a great year. They've started fantastic, the pair of them. Ethan's injured, but I think he's back in a couple of weeks. One of those could end up, especially with how injury-prone Luke... I mean, we said it like fucking 2 weeks ago, didn't we? With how injury-prone Luke Shaw is, one of them could have a chance, and he's fucking injured already. It's probably come at the wrong time for Ethan. Brandon's in great form. I'm sure he probably just plays young, sadly. Delo's out as well. That's not a good move. But that could mean that someone like Brandon Williams gets elevated to the matchday squad. And then who knows, he could be like, fuck it, throw him on the bench. I hope that's the case, because I think Brandon's got the sort of attitude that fits in with a lot of the rest of the young lads in the squad, where it's, they don't give a fuck. They're not scared. And I think they'll have it. Look, this team's more than good enough to beat Crystal Palace, and it didn't. That
speaks volumes, I think. I mean,
that's something that I don't know where you even begin.
Personally, I mean, me and Steve went to the game, but being a fan at the game, I'm genuinely nervous about our trip to St Mary's, because I know Southampton, I forgot what the score was today for Southampton, but I think because they're you kind of compare them on the same level with Crystal Palace, and to go away from home and if we put in a performance like we did today, I don't think we'll get a result at all. With regards to the performers today, I think the midfield looked lackluster. I think Paul Pogba, you could tell the quality is there with Pogba, but you can also tell that he needs a bit of support. I mean, Scott McTominay, we touched upon this. He didn't have his best game at all. Lingard, I just think we're crying out for a defensive midfielder, Steve, personally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think McTominay, I think he needs game time, and we need to be patient. But we touched upon this before. If Scott didn't have the preseason he did, I think a lot of United fans would have been crying out for a central holding midfielder because of the Pogba situation as well.
If Pogba had gone and we hadn't replaced him with at least 2, I'd have been panicking. I thought we needed to replace Ander Herrera at least, and we didn't, and I'm disappointed in that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the board would say. I don't know what the manager... I'm sure the manager would be quite positive because that's just his personality anyway. I felt like we needed that. Look, at the start of the season, end of last season, I said 5 signings to make United contenders. 1 was Wan-Bissaka. 1 was Toby Alderweireld. We probably upgraded that with Maguire. Yeah. I didn't think Maguire was possible at the time. 1 was Ruben Neves. No one's even had a sniff by the looks of things. 1 was Ndombele. 1 was Jadon Sancho.
Yeah.
And I think we'd have competed with that. Now, I didn't at the time really, truly envisage Lukaku leaving. Look, 3 strikers isn't enough. Ole should know this. As a man that was the 4th choice in a very famous rotated striker system, he should know that it's not enough, especially when you've got one of them plays on the wing week in, week out, at least. So, look, a lot of people are going, just wait till we get to January. We don't traditionally sign in January. I don't know why you're pinning your hopes on that. We're gonna this time around.
Sanchez was a bit of a out of the...
I think it was a panic, really, to be honest, it might be the same way again, that it might be a panic thing. The way Jadon Sancho's going, if we didn't want to pay 100 this summer, good luck trying to pay fucking 200 next summer because the guy's on fire. Was it 4 games, 3 goals, 3 assists?
Yeah, ridiculous.
Frightening.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew we were good, but he's really showing some absolutely ridiculous levels. For me, Jadon Sancho, Rashford, Martial would have been a force to be reckoned with for any forwards.
I think that also relies on us to get in top 4. I don't think. I mean, I don't know what you
listen to me very carefully. Jadon Sancho would have come regardless.
Really?
Yes.
So what do you think it is? The money?
Dortmund wanted. I don't know the figure off the top of my head is 100 million. That's the one I've heard. I don't know what the exact figure was, but they was told a high fee and didn't want to pay it. I don't know where that came from. He wanted Champions League football. Trust me, he'd have joined United this summer if we'd have paid.
So do you think then? Say I know it might be unrealistic, but say we dipped into the market in January. Do you think the money would be there?
Fuck me, man. If we get rid of Sanchez, because wages matters more to this club, or to all clubs actually, when it comes to player and budgets and stuff like that, than transfer fees do. Wages. Sanchez is on a fat wedge, an absolute fat wedge. Yeah. And also, I mean, all right, he's on a 25% decrease, but so's the entire squad. The club don't plan to be in Europa League very long, so everybody's contract is, the whole wage structure is going to be 25% higher, is what they're planning for. If we've got rid of Lukaku, Sanchez, one of the Chuckle brothers by the end of the window, possibly Rojo, that's probably £1 million a week off the budget. So plus the transfer fees we've got for Lukaku.
Do you think then that, I mean, you've got to look at the positives to that as well. Do you think that could probably create harmony within the squad? Because we saw with David De Gea's situation, I think it was rumoured that he was saying, I want so-and-so money because Sanchez is getting this much, but he isn't performing. Mm-hmm. Do you think then that would create a kind of, harmony really within the squad if Sanchez left, potentially? Or do you think, hang on a minute, we look a bit lacklustre up front. We've only got Mason really as our backup, and then Marcus as well. How would you assess Sanchez's departure then, potentially?
It's not worked out. Well excited when he signed.
Yeah, I think everybody
still think he could probably do something, but clearly Ole doesn't. No. The way he's been just forgotten about and moved out and annexed out of the team, clearly they've already made plans to go on without him. What worries me is, very much like the Lukaku thing, we're not better for not having, even though he was a failure, Sanchez, Lukaku and Herrera. We're not better for that.
No, not at all.
Fred, there's still question marks over. Pereira looks like he may be a bit of a surprise addition to the squad, so we might have bolstered in there. Jimmy Garner, if he's not a first-team player by the end of the season, there'll be fucking riots. Levitt, I would like to think, has got the skills to do it. I don't know if he's got the physicality to become a first-team member of the squad. I mean, he's another one with outrageous vision. Angel could come in and maybe take the slot that Sanchez was doing. He couldn't do worse.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. He couldn't do worse than Sanchez has done in a United shirt, and he'd occupied very much the same positions. We probably needed 5 players going into the window. We lost 3 first-team players, signed 3 first-team players. We probably need another 5 still to come in.
Are you worried then for Ollie?
You got to be. I mean, half of me thinks that the club has to have turned a corner when Ollie was appointed. I think they went into the Moyes appointment with the right spirit, if that makes sense. Now, it didn't fucking work and he had to go. Then they went with Van Gaal, a renowned club builder. We didn't get to see the final form of Van Gaal's system, but it was fucking boring at where it was. Now, I wonder if he'd have got Pogba, Mkhitaryan and Ibrahimovic, would it still have been boring? Or mightn't it have been actually mint? We'll never know. Would he have had the personality to sign Ibra? Probably not. That experiment failed. Then you bring in Jose Mourinho, and the bringing in of Jose Mourinho makes sense because you're like, right, biggest manager, biggest football club.
Title winner.
Surely this guy's going to get you winning. And he kind of did, but he didn't deliver a title by a long way. So once you've rinsed through that little cycle, you kind of have to let the dust settle and go, right, okay, fuck that. Clean slate, let's build again. And if you think building takes 18 months, you're off your fucking rocker. This shit's going to take years. That job Jurgen Klopp's been doing took years at Liverpool, and they've still not won a league. Yes, they competed. Yes, they're European champions. I'd love to not be fucking winning leagues at the level they are at the moment. But the Manchester City job took a fucking billion.
Well, they had the money. Well, I mean, we had the money. I mean, you see with City's transfer policy, they don't like going over 60 million, is it? Something like that. But United, we seem to be willing to spend that amount, well, over that amount of money. What does concern me, though, is whether Ollie will get the time, though, because in the current football world, we've seen with managers, it's not like the olden times where managers had a lot of time on their hands, they had the backing of the board. We're living in a world where a lot of fans are impatient, and with Ollie, I just worry that I know people may say we're being a bit dramatic because it's only one loss and stuff, but I think this loss kind of speaks volumes because it's against Crystal Palace.
Oh, mate, it fucking sucks. Right, look, we'd be here all bastard night analysing this, and ultimately, maybe it's not that deep. Maybe it's a bad day at the office. What do you guys reckon in the comments? It's a bad day. I fucking hope it's a bad day at the office, but the prospect of Southampton, Arsenal, Liverpool makes my balls ache.
I'm scared, man.
Right, look, it's Saturday night, the sun's out. Let's go and forget about this and have a beer.
Enjoy it.
See you in the next one. Laters.